and we've been trying to keep up with, a growing number of people and groups and institutions who are standing up to Donald Trump and simply saying no. It seems like the harder that MAGA leans into the authoritarianism, the more people are finding the voice to push back. Earlier this month, Trump offered 9 top universities a deal to keep their federal funding in exchange for making their campuses essentially more MAGA. They would become kind of adjuncts of the state. So far, 3 top universities, MIT, Brown, and Penn, have told Trump, no, we will not allow our campuses and our faculties to be held hostage. They all saw how he picked apart Columbia after Columbia's trustees cut a deal. Trump governed like a mafioso running a protection racket. You're intimidated into making a corrupt bargain with him, and you find that the deal keeps getting worse all the time, right? There's no backing out once you say yes. People seem to be realizing the only way to resist is to say no en masse. And again, that is happening more and more every day, everywhere you look. In fact, right now, here's a great story about this. It's happening in a kind of unlikely place. It's happening in airports around the country. So these airports were told by the TSA, they were ordered to air this political propaganda message by the administration. Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, blaming Democrats for the government shutdown.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. It is TSA's top priority to make sure that you have the most pleasant and efficient airport experience as possible while we keep you safe. However, Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government, and because of this, many of our operations are impacted.
The chances are that if you're flying anywhere this week, you're not seeing that ad. Administrators at the airport in Portland, Oregon, when Noem's agents are tussling with protesters in frog costumes, pointed out that her ad is just an open violation of the Hatch Act, which is supposed to prevent open politicking by sitting administration officials. It's still the law of the land. Not even airports in South Dakota, where Noem was governor until January, are running the ad. At the state's biggest airport, Sioux Falls Regional, an administrator said, the video is not airing because the airport does not have monitors appropriate for the purpose. He said existing monitors are devoted to flight-related information. Our producers has identified at least 40 airports around the country that are just saying no. They're refusing to air Noem, including all the New York area airports, major hubs in Atlanta, Chicago, LA, and Las Vegas. And we told you earlier this week about resistance to the Trump administration coming from the reporters who cover the Pentagon day in, day out. These are not ideological folks. A lot of these work at, mainstream news outlets. They don't have any sort of bias here, right? They're just trying to do their jobs. And this was them yesterday. This is the scene. It's virtually everyone in the Pentagon press corps, right? Across the sort of spectrum, turned in their access badges, emptied out their workspaces, and vacated the building. Rather than agree to the administration's new restrictions, they were essentially told to act as stenographers if they wanted to keep their access, right? Basically authorized reporting only. And everyone refused, except for the far-right One America News Network. But just them. Newsmax said no. There was refusal from Fox News, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth's former employer. It's also happening in federal grand juries where regular citizens are refusing to indict their peers with charges trumped up by this administration. Like a young woman in D.C. who was accused of assaulting an FBI agent during a protest against immigration officials. Now, the office Trump's handpicked U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro tried 3 times to indict her on a felony with serious jail time attached, right? They failed every time. So then they got her indicted on a misdemeanor. And late this evening, listen to this. After a brief trial and less than 2 hours of deliberation, jurors returned a not guilty verdict. These jurors and reporters and airport administrators and university presidents, right, join a Democratic Congress that seems to have found its backbone now 9 months into this, saying no to a president killing healthcare subsidies, illegally impounding funds, creating new funds out of thin air that he's not legally allowed to access. And they join a growing number of judges saying, in no uncertain terms, and again, across the ideological spectrum, appointed by presidents Democrat and Republican, no, you can't put American troops on city streets. You can't have armed agents wearing masks and refusing to identify yourselves and violating people's Fourth Amendment rights, just pulling them over, grabbing them, detaining them. They join thousands of Americans who are monitoring ICE in their neighborhoods, documenting raids, in many cases preventing illegal arrests through just nonviolent witness. all of this is different than those first few months of the administration, right? I mean, then it was like this snowball just rolling down a mountain. It's like so fast, and you saw law firms saying yes and universities saying yes, and everyone kind of not sure what to do. But everywhere you look now, the no's are piling up. They are. And all of those no's are coming as we approach a weekend where millions of people, millions, will take to the streets in thousands of communities across the country as part of the No Kings March. Ezra Levin's the co-founder and co-executive director of Indivisible, one of the key organizers of the No Kings protests. George Conway is a conservative attorney, president of the Society for the Rule of Law, and they both join me now. Ezra, so many people have energy they want to put somewhere right now. And I think so many people also had that same feeling early on of watching institutions they trusted or people they trusted not saying no, saying like, well, yes for now, or maybe, or do you also feel that there is an uptick in this energy to resist, to say no, and that no is a complete sentence and people are understanding that?
Chris, it's been incredible to watch this change. 11 months ago, the conventional wisdom was that Trump was all powerful. He was rolling in with a trifecta. There was no point in organizing to stop him. That's what we heard from institution after institution, universities, law firms, media institutions. You said it. And look at where we are now. On Saturday, there will be the largest peaceful protest in modern American history. Yeah, we'll be in Chicago. We'll be in New York. We'll be in D.C. We'll be in L.A. But Gus, we'll be in East Glacier Park in Montana. We'll be in Homer, Alaska, the little town that I grew up in, rural Texas. There are 3 in that county. This is in red states, blue states, purple states, rural areas, suburban areas, urban areas, and it's led by normal, everyday people. I think what we're seeing right now, it's something we've heard a lot, but what we're seeing in real time, in front of our own eyes, is this basic idea: courage is contagious, and it's spreading all over the country right now.
George, I want to. The case of this woman, Sydney Reed, is so remarkable to me, and as a lawyer who's practiced in federal court, you'll appreciate it. I mean, you know, prosecutors can go their whole career and never get a no bill from a grand jury. I mean, it basically is. Right. It essentially is a rubber stamp. It's a little bit of check, a little bit of process, but it's a very easy bar to clear. You got 3 no bills from one grand jury. Then they go down to the misdemeanor, and they're like, "We're going to try you for misdemeanor." She gets acquitted. Here's the statement from Sydney Reed today. "I feel sorry for the prosecutors, really, who must be burdened by Trump's irrational and unfounded hatred for his fellow man. Knowing that I can stand in front of 12 of my fellow citizens and be found not guilty for standing up for basic human rights makes me feel like, despite the scary times we live in, we have hope for the future." And this, to me, is just such a remarkable example of the system holding. In so many places it hasn't, but we've got due process for a reason, and here's what it looks like.
I totally agree with you, and all I want to do is just applaud what you just read. And I think it's absolutely right that courage is contagious. I think that what happens is everybody looks for somebody else to stand up and to defy, the authoritarianism. But once you get enough people doing it, it becomes safe to do it. You become excited about doing it. And I think that's what's going to happen this weekend with the No Kings rally.
Do you feel, Ezra, they've been hammering this message about that, this is a hate America rally, and they've actually been giving it a lot of publicity, which I think is sort of a somewhat strange tactical choice. I want to show what Scott Bessent said about it. Take a listen to his remarks.
I believe that the Democrats will come to their senses soon. Maybe it's after this No Kings thing, but no Kings equal no paychecks.
If in fact they are waiting for this No Kings protest, no Kings means no paychecks and no government.
I'm not quite sure the point. What do you make of their tactical decision to highlight these protests as much as they have?
Chris, I want to be 100% clear for everybody watching this. We did not pay one single dime to these Republicans to give us all this publicity. I am thankful, somewhat confused, but they are choosing to highlight it. And what we are seeing is just skyrocketing RSVPs and event registrations. So, my first reaction is I laughed. Do you know how we closed out the Philly No Kings rally in June? Leah, my spouse, and I, we closed it out, 100,000 people waving American flags and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. That's what these rallies look like. They are joyful, they are boisterous, they are patriotic, and anybody with any passing knowledge knows that. And the Republicans feel trapped. They're losing this shutdown fight. They are losing popular support. People are reacting negatively all across the country, and so they're looking for what to do. You'd almost feel sorry for them if they weren't systematically trying to...
The global humiliation. There was a time when the world looked at the U.S. and saw stability. Then Trump walked in and turned the briefing room into a circus tent. I remember watching foreign leaders try to hide their disbelief behind polite smiles, the kind you give to a man who thinks the room laughs with him. Every handshake, every summit, every historic deal was all theater. He didn't listen to advisors. He listened to applause. And when the world didn't clap, he took it personally. That's the thing about Trump. Every disagreement feels like betrayal. Every bit of advice sounds like disrespect. He thought leadership meant dominance. He thought diplomacy was a weakness. And in the end, he left the world not fearing America, but pitying it. Allies stopped calling. Enemies stopped pretending. And Trump, he called it victory. He said America was respected again. But respect isn't built on fear. It's built on trust. And nobody trusts a man who treats every friendship like a deal and every deal like a tweet. The world didn't move on because it hated Trump. It moved on because it couldn't afford to wait for him. In the end, Trump will boast that he changed the world. And maybe, in a way, he did, just not how he imagined. He made other nations realize they could survive without America's permission. He made old allies rethink old loyalties. And he made history remember that ego can collapse empires faster than any war. The world didn't stop spinning when Trump withdrew. It started recalibrating. New centers of power emerged. New voices filled the silence he left behind. One day, when future historians write about the fall of American dominance, they'll trace it back to the man who thought the world was a mirror and never noticed when it stopped reflecting him.